From the News Channel 5 Network, this is SportsLine.
All right, welcome to SportsLine, everybody. Tuesday night edition. Normally yours truly, John Burton, here on a Wednesday, but pressed into service, filling in for Steve Lehman. Steve is on his way to Chi-Town, Chicago, Illinois. He'll be covering the NFL Draft for us throughout the rest of the week, so we look forward to his reports. You can watch them beginning on News Channel 5 tomorrow, beginning at 4 o'clock as we get set for the NFL Draft. A huge week of Nashville sports going on. As you, I'm sure, well know, the Nashville Predators, of course, getting ready to play Game 7 of their opening round Western Conference playoff series with the Anaheim Ducks. That takes place tomorrow night, Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. And then one night later, Thursday night, the NFL Draft begins. The Tennessee Titans, as of now, have the number 15 overall pick. Still talk of them perhaps trading back into the top 10. Nothing to report as of yet. But again, we've got Steve Lehman on the ground in Chicago. And if there are any new developments, we'll certainly pass them along to you. So with so much going on this week, the last thing you want is for me up here running my gums and talking about what I think is going to happen. We're going to let you hear from the folks in charge and the folks that can affect the outcome of these two major sporting events coming up this week in Nashville sports. We're going to start with the Titans. You are going to hear Steve Lehman's exclusive one-on-one interview with Titans GM John Robinson in its entirety. Then right after that, we will play today's Titans pre-draft press conference with John Robinson and head coach Mike Mularkey. That will also be in its entirety. After that, we go right into our Preds coverage. You will hear from head coach Peter Laviolette and several select players. Again, the Preds taking on the Ducks tomorrow night in Game 7. They forced that Game 7 with a 3-1 win last night at Bridgestone Arena in one of the most exciting and fan-friendly and fan-participating, I should say, playoff hockey games, maybe in the history of the Nashville Predators. So let's get right to it. Here is Steve Lehman with John Robinson, the GM of the Tennessee Titans, getting ready for the draft. And then after that, the Titans pre-draft press conference. Then after that, right into Preds coverage. So keep it right here on News Channel 5+.
Every day presents a new challenge. Every day is exciting, and I think I said the other day on the radio, I still get goosebumps when I walk down the hall and see the fireball at the end. So just very passionate about the direction that the football team's going, and we're ready to get out there and win football games.
DeMarco Murray had some very public struggles last year in Philadelphia. When you looked at that situation, what sold you on the fact that, in your mind, he can be the guy he was in 2014 again?
DeMarco's, he's a very mature guy. He's a football-first guy. Football is very important to DeMarco. He's a tough-minded guy. He handled the situation very professionally, and we just thought he embodied not just his on-the-field performance, but everything that he stood for as a person and as a teammate and as a guy in the locker room, everything we were going to be about as a Titan.
You made the blockbuster trade for the #1 pick in the draft last week. What made that deal come together for you?
In the end, it was the number of picks. You know, I think it was the 2 second-rounders I've said that were important to us, the extra first-round picks next year. In the end, it was a chance for us to have 6 picks in the top 76 players in this year's draft, and then 5 picks in the first 3 rounds of next year's draft. So 11 total players potentially. If we stay at all those picks, that's a pretty good shot in the arm to a franchise, talent-wise.
You're the first team in 25 years to have 6 picks in the top 76 in the draft. How helpful will that be as you look to fill multiple holes on this roster?
Well, I think anytime you can get younger as a football team, there's a lot of talented football players on this football team already. And we've got some good veteran leadership on this team that can show these young guys the ropes of what it takes to be successful in the NFL. But anytime you can infuse a team with youth and then kind of marry that with some good veteran presence in the locker room, it's generally a pretty good recipe for success.
You've also talked about the assets and the currency that you now have with all those picks over the next couple of years. Was there an advantage to making the trade when you did as opposed to waiting later in the game towards draft week or maybe even draft day?
We just wanted to position ourselves and allow them to position themselves with the appropriate net of who they were going to target and go after. So, you know, I think they had some workouts that they were scheduling, you know, this week and potentially early next week leading up to the draft that they were either going to have to move on or cancel. And then similarly with us, we were going to have to kind of hone in on what we were going to do if we were to stick and pick. So I think given the extra 2 weeks, it allows you to just circle back and really try to hone in on the targets that we're going to go after.
Nobody's ever moved all the way back from 1 down to 15. How many first-round draft grades do you guys have on the big board right now that made you feel comfortable that you're still going to get a really good player at 15 if you stay there?
Yeah, we don't really categorically talk in rounds. We talk in terms of what their role is going to be on the football team. But we thought there were plenty of football players on the draft board that were going to be, not just depth players, but guys that could be, contributors to what we're going to be here. And so we felt comfortable making the move to try to position ourselves to acquire, 6 of those guys.
Is that where the real depth or the quality in this draft is, that you can get some really good players in the second and third round?
I think so. I think this at various position groups, there's guys that not everybody can go in the first round. There's going to be a lot of good football players that get drafted on Friday night. We got a chance to get 5 of them, so that was huge for us.
You've done a lot this spring. Obviously, you filled a needed running back with DeMarco Murray. What are going to be the big priorities for John Robinson when you walk into that war room next Thursday night?
Really just make sure we get guys that embody everything we're about as a football team. Tough, accountable guys with a team-first attitude that are going to come in here and be good football players in whatever position they're going to be.
What's your philosophy on best player available at the spot versus what you need at that moment on your team?
Yeah, good question. I think, again, you just got to take it individually. And you get a guy in the second round that you think is not far off if you take the guy in the first round. So I think it's supply and demand. Is there a heavy supply at one position that you can maybe get in the second or third round, or is it really lean? You really got to take that guy in the second round because he's not going to be there in the third round. So I think you just kind of got to gauge the supply and demand of each position.
Have you sat back for a second and thought about what it's going to be like to be running your own war room next week?
No, I don't really think of it as my war room. I think of it as our war room. It's a group effort. Myself, Coach Malarkey, Blake Bedingfield, all of our scouts, certainly ownership. I mean, we all have been in this together from the jump. All the decisions that we make they're talked about and discussed internally with the appropriate people, and we make the best decision for our football team.
You view this as the best week of the year from your standpoint for your job, or is this a trying week to get through everything?
It's a fun week for personnel men. It's a chance to see a year's worth of work and kind of culminating into next weekend. But to me, one of the more exciting weeks is the opening week of football. There's nothing like being out on the grass on a Sunday afternoon.
Everyone talks about how important it is to do well in the draft. You build a team through the draft. How important will those 3 days next week be for you and the Tennessee Titans?
I think it'll be very important. It'll be a nice, I think we got a nice kickstart in free agency, and it'll be a nice complementary piece to that group of guys. This will be much like an inaugural recruiting class at a major university. We're going to have a lot of guys who can come in here and come in together and buy into the system and hopefully grow as NFL players.